Deathgasm was pretty alright. It was released in 2015. I recently just watched it on Netflix. It came up under my little recently added tab, and I was like, hey, that looks like it could kill 100 minutes pretty cool, so I'll check it out. It was written and directed by Jason Lee Howden. It came from New Zealand, and it's kind of a horror film, kind of a grindhouse throwback, a lot of comedy thrown in there. I would say none of the actors, you won't recognize any of them unless you watch a ton of New Zealand films. Maybe, they might even be unknowns over there. But the main character was played by Milo Cawthorn, and he played a character named Brody. And basically Brody was a metalhead who moved from one town to another town because his mother had to go to jail, I think. And he moved in with his really religious uncle and aunt, and they had a son who was kind of not that cool to him because he liked metal. He goes to high school, and he is kind of seen as an outcast because he dresses like... He becomes friends with other kids who like geeky stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, and then eventually he goes to a record store where he's looking at metal records. This movie is really heavy on the metal thing. If you don't like metal and you don't like horror movies, you probably won't really care about this movie. He meets this kid named Zach, and then they start a band with the two Dungeons and Dragons guys who somehow know how to play keyboards and drums, even though they had no interest in music up to that point. And yeah, I guess where things go from there, they find some music, like written on a piece of paper that is very questionable. They think it's inside the sleeve of a record that they were expecting to be like this super gnarly metal record, but it turned out to be like a pop record. And then they decide to play the music, and it turns everyone into demons, and then at that point the film basically becomes a zombie film, except for they're not zombies, they are demons. Let's see, the main supporting cast is, who do we have here? James Blake plays Zach, and he was pretty good. I mean, he was kind of a punk, but I liked the character enough. He was, you know, they call him chaotic neutral at point, further referencing the whole Dungeons and Dragons thing. And the main female character is named Medina, which is a great name, and she's played by Kimberly Crossman. And she was probably my favorite character in the whole film, despite the fact that she mostly starts life out as just being the obligatory romantic interest, which isn't great, but she eventually becomes pretty awesome, and I like the character a lot. This film's just a genre comedy. That's pretty much it. It's very heavy on the horror, it's really heavy on the gore and the violence, and it's silly though, it's not serious or gritty at all. A lot of inspiration from Evil Dead. I mean, at one point they even use a chainsaw. It was cool though, I enjoyed it for what it was. And I would say that this film is definitely for people who like those types of films. And it's for anyone that really likes metal. You can tell that Jason Lee Howden was really into metal because it's all over this film. I mean, it's everywhere in the script. They're talking metal left and right. One thing I did find a little strange is there was a part where Brody was listing subgenres of metal and he mentioned Screamo, and when I think of Screamo, I think of my generation of Screamo bands, which was like Thursday and The Used, and then if you move it to 2006-ish, mid-2000s, it was like Chiodos and Pierce the Veil, and those bands were awful and never actually considered metal in my mind, and most people that like metal think those bands suck, and they do. This is nitpicking. Yeah, it's a pretty fun movie. Shaun of the Dead, this is not. I would say that the humor reminded me a lot of Metalocalypse. There is a lot of metal jokes in it, and if you think those metal jokes are funny, then you'll really like it, but if you don't listen to metal music, then you will probably think it's stupid. I thought that there was some plot points that didn't really need to happen. They went to the unfortunate BS liar revealed trope, and I cringed when I saw that. I was like, come on, movie. You're doing so good up to this point. Why are you doing this? But it was alright. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was only an hour and 40 minutes long, and it was just, hey, I don't have anything to do this morning, I'll watch a movie on Netflix, and I am not mad that I did. If I had to give it a rating, since that's what, you know, reviewing things is about, I would give it somewhere around, I would give it a light 3 out of 5. Which is pretty much what I give most things that I would watch once and never watch again, even though I enjoyed it well enough. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Boy on Celluloid, straight to tape. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there are a lot of dicks in this movie. This movie is pretty into dicks, which is fine. God damn it, I dropped my cue card.